More now on the breaking news. A historic day in New York. The 34 felony counts against Donald Trump finally in the hands of the jury after weeks of testimony in this hush money trial. Right now, I'm joined by Danya Perry. She's an attorney for Michael Cohen. Danya, thank you very much for joining us. I know you've spoken to Michael Cohen about today's jury deliberations. How does he think they went?
Well, I've asked him to essentially sequester himself. The jury's not sequestered, but the witnesses. And so, yes, I think he's speaking only to his family and to me. And he wants to know what's the meaning of these notes, what's our takeaway. And I always tell my clients what I do know and also the limits of what I know. And I'll tell you what I said to him, which is that you don't want to overread into jury notes. So what we do know is that this is a methodical and deliberate jury. And the prosecution told them that this election fraud conspiracy was hatched in August of 2015 at this Trump Tower meeting, Michael Cohen and Donald Trump. And so they are going back to the beginning and they're asking for testimony about that, about two of the attendees of that meeting. So clearly they're being careful and methodical. They also, I think of note, asked for some testimony of Mr. Cohen's. And that, to me, the only takeaway, or I should say the most likely takeaway from that, is that they are discounting Todd Blanche's summation where he said, do not rely on the say-so of Michael Cohen. They are asking specifically for his testimony. So while there are other possible alternative explanations, I think the most likely is that they are in fact looking to his testimony and to rely on it, as well as Mr. Pecker's and other testimony from the trial. In
his jury instructions, as you know, Danya, Judge Merchan instructed the jury to treat Michael Cohen, your client, as an accomplice, telling them, I'm quoting him now, even if you find the testimony of Michael Cohen to be believable, you may not convict the defendant solely upon that testimony unless you also find that it was corroborated by other evidence. What does that say about the concerns over Michael Cohen's testimony?
It says nothing at all. That is an everyday garden variety instruction. There's nothing unusual about that at all. And it's not Judge or Justice Merchan instructing the jury that Mr. Cohen was an accomplice. Mr. Cohen testified to that. He allocuted to it in federal criminal court, and he told the jury all about it. So that is a very ordinary, commonplace instruction, and I don't believe anything should be read into that at all. And the jury is following that instruction. They are asking for Mr. Cohen's testimony. They're also asking for corroborative testimony from Mr. Pecker, and that's, I believe, exactly what a careful jury should be doing.
Does Michael Cohen, Danya, believe this jury will ultimately convict Donald Trump?
That, I think, because this is still pending and it's still in front of a jury, I really don't want to get into his subjective or personal thoughts about it. He testified in court, and I can reiterate that here, that he does wish to see accountability for Mr. Trump. That is undeniable. And I think that's all that I can say about that at this point.
I know you're restricted on that front. Sources say that Trump's allies think the longer these deliberations by the jury go on, the more it benefits Trump. Do you agree with that?
I don't in this case. I think that is kind of the conventional wisdom for defendants. I think here, I watched this jury very carefully, and they really followed very closely. They clearly were very attentive. They listened to the judge, even on his everyday instructions to not, read press about or not talk to each other or form an opinion. They nodded along. So they're going to do exactly as they were instructed, and they're going to take their time. There are 34 counts. There were 6 weeks worth of testimony, 20 witnesses, hundreds of exhibits. So I think they will acquit themselves, not to use a loaded term. They will follow their obligations and take them seriously. And so it could take some time, and I don't think that we should read anything into that at all.
Danya Perry, let's continue this conversation down the road. Thanks so much for joining us.